All right, what is up, everybody? This is your boy Crafty Dante, and I wanted to do an introduction video. Now, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to attempt to crochet while I do this video, even though, ooh, I got my yarn everywhere. Don't know where it's coming from. Okay, there we go. All right, so right now I am currently working on designing a cardigan for myself using a lighter weight yarn than I normally use. Normally I'm a worsted weight person, but as time has passed by, I am starting to want a more lighter fabric, especially like it don't bother me as much when I am knitting, but it does bother me when I am crocheting. So a little bit about myself. I currently reside in Cleveland, Tennessee. I am 37 now, about to be 38 November 10th. Oh my God, you guys, this says a lot about me. I'm an old lady now. But yeah, so I got my start in the crafting world back when I was 17 years old. I kind of got a little bit before that because I had this awesome down-to-earth art teacher in middle school who taught me about weaving, but we didn't have like a machine or anything like that. We kind of cut out cardboard and then we kind of wrap yarn around it, and we learned how to weave that way. And then I think my first time ever playing with yarn in the first place was when I was in either pre-K or kindergarten. I can't remember exactly when, but I can remember that far back. Now, fast forward, when I learned how to crochet, I was in an unfortunate predicament. So I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, walking the streets of Brainerd Road. Now, this is when I had just got emancipated and got kicked out of my foster home and was pretty much roaming the streets and looking for a place to rest and lay my head. And during that time, I stayed with strangers. I stayed in the trunk of a Jeep. What else did I do? But other things as well. But this particular night, I ended up going to the Waffle House on Brainerd Road, and I remember going in there and begging them to let me stay there until the nighttime. I mean, to the morning time, because I had nowhere to go, and it was dangerous walking the streets being that young, you know? And so they told me I could stay as long as I promised I wouldn't fall asleep. And I was planning on keeping that promise until, to make sure I stayed awake, they gave me a bunch of coffee. Now, mind you, as a kid, I didn't like the taste of coffee. And so what I did was I put a lot of creamer and a lot of sugar in it. So it went from coffee to tasting like hot cocoa when I was done, okay? And then, so I drank a couple of cups of that. And then eventually I did find myself falling asleep. But luckily, it was not a busy night. And I'm so blessed for that. And when I wake up, I look over to my left and I see a older lady sitting at the table. And at the time, I didn't know what she was doing, but now I know that she was crocheting. And what she was doing was she was making this infinity scarf, you know? And so what happened was I just was in awe of her because I've always wanted to do that. And I've seen it before. I just didn't ask what it was. But at my school, we used to have home ec. And at first, I just thought that class was for pregnant teenage young ladies, because that's who I would see in that class crocheting was pregnant teenage young ladies. And so, you know, I didn't think a guy could do something like that, but I've always wanted to anyway, you know? And so the lady looks up and she looks at me, and then I hear her up and look away. And then she says, "Excuse me, young man, come here." And I turn around and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to stare." And she was just like, "No, no, no, come here. You're fine." And so I go to this table where she was sitting, and I have a seat. And she asked me, she said, "Excuse me, young man, have you eaten?" And I said, "I'm fine." She said, "I did not ask you that. I asked you, have you eaten?" And I was just like, "No, ma'am, I haven't." So she said, "Get this young man an all-star breakfast." And she said, "What would you like to drink?" And I said, oh, just water, please. She said, and get this young man some orange juice. And then so she looks at me and she tells me, she says, oh, it's so amazing to see a young man like yourself interested in crocheting. And I said, what? She said, crocheting. And I said, oh, I don't know about that. I don't think I can do that. She said, sure you can. She said, reach over there in my bag. And she said, you'll and pull out a hook. So I pulled out a hook, and she started explaining to me about the hook. Then she tells me, she says, now get some yarn out. And so I got some yarn out. And so what she did after that was she's like, all right, I'm going to teach you your first, your first stitch. Well, I'm teaching you first, your first steps, sorry. And so she taught me how to make a chain. And oh my God, that chain looked so horrible, honey. It looked like figure eights and squares and everything else. And she's like, oh my God, you're so talented. And I'm thinking in my mind, ma'am, you are lying. And so what she did next was she said, she's like, all right, now I'm gonna teach you your first stitch. It's called a single crochet. And so she taught me how. And so as I'm working on this, I am sitting here trying to, create like a rectangle or whatever like that. Honey, to this day, I don't know what shape I made, but I made something. And again, here she goes. She's like, oh, you just a prodigy. And I'm looking at her like, ma'am, can we stop our mess? Okay, I didn't tell her that, but I was thinking it, okay? And so afterwards, we sat there for a couple hours. We just laughing and having a good little time. And then she looks at me and she says, young man, come with me. Now, mind y'all, I wouldn't go with nobody, but I'm just like, I was big and I was tall, and I was like, she was just a little sweetheart white lady, so I wasn't really paying that much attention. I was just like, she seemed like I was like, she cool, but also too, I had that internal feeling that she was my guardian angel that God sent my way. And so I went with her, and so she took me to Walmart on Brandon Road. And so I'm thinking to myself, oh, she about to buy me food or something, but I won't have anywhere to put it. And so she takes me to the crafting aisle in Walmart. And mind y'all, I never knew there was a crafting aisle in Walmart, okay? And so I was amazed. I felt like I was Charlie in Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, okay? And so I'm there watching her with the buggy, and she's getting all this yarn, and she's getting a pack of boys crochet hooks, and then she's getting a case for it. And then I'm just adding it up. I'm like, oh my gosh, she really loves this, because it's almost over $100 worth of stuff she's getting. And so after she's done, she stops in front of me with the buggy, and she looks at me and she says to me, she says, all right, I got everything you'll need to be able to crochet. And I looked at her like, what? She's just like, yeah, this is for you. And I'm just like, oh no, ma'am, I can't accept that. I was just like, because I have no way of paying you back. And she looked at me in my eyes and she said, make me a promise. Promise me you'll never stop crocheting, and we'll call it an investment. And so from that point on, I never stopped crocheting. I've been crocheting since I was 17. I'm 37 going on 38 now, and I still love it to this day. And I still have the same set of hooks. It's not with me right now, but I still have them in storage. And those are my favorite ones. Well, these are my new favorites, because if you got big hands and you have wrist problems, you know, I got this off Temu, my little Temu hooks, okay? And so, let's see. So we that was the last time I saw her. She dropped me off back at the Waffle House, and she went about on her way. She didn't ask me about if I had anywhere to stay, nothing like that. She didn't pry, but she wanted to be a blessing. But I never learned her name. So then fast forward 10 years from that day, and I'm at Walmart, the same Walmart she took me to, in the crafting aisle, because I needed more yarn, okay? Because at that time, I didn't have this weird obsession with having like a collection of yarn. I only used to buy yarn project based, and then I kind of got warped into this whole, oh, you need a crap ton of yarn. Look at my yarn haul. Look at my yarn collection. And so I found myself having yarn that just been with me for years that I still haven't used. And I'm like, I wish I didn't fall into that trap. But going back, I'm coming out the aisle, and next thing you know, I see her. But I was in disbelief because I'm like, no. And I was just like, it's like everything froze, and it was just like this frozen state. And so then she looks and she says, oh my God, y'all, I literally dropped my stuff and ran and gave her the biggest hug ever, because I told her, I was like, oh my God, first of all, girl, what is your name? Now, mind you, she older than me, but I I feel like it wasn't like, our relationship wasn't more like superior or elder child. It was kind of like we just vibe. Like, even though she was older than me, we just kind of vibed on a personal level. And so, and I told her, and she's just like, well, my name is Melanie Dobbs Gibbs. And I was just like, well, I'm Dante Galindo Cruz, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Okay. And she's just like, it was, so we just with each other, and I'm just hanging out talking to her. And she looks at me, because and she says to me, she asked me that same question, have you eaten? And I was just like, oh no, I'm fine. She's like, I didn't ask you that, I asked you, have you eaten? And so we go to this place called City Cafe over there off Gunborough, close to McKay's used bookstore. And we ended up having a bite to eat. Mind you, her driving that time around was horrible, babe. I'm talking about, I was holding on to my door. I was ready for this trip to be over. I'm like, girl, let me out this car. And then I remember we grabbed the bite to eat, and then she took me to her house where we were just hanging out in the living room, and we just started crafting. And she looked at my work and she said, oh my God. She said, you have gotten 10 times more amazing than I remember. And she says, I was like, yeah, because I love it. She said, oh, see, that's the difference between you and me. She's like, you do it because you love it. I do it to keep from slapping somebody. I was like, I love you so much. And oh my God, y'all, she gave me this she gave me this antique knitting basket where you used to keep your yarn and knitting needles and everything like that. Unfortunately, after a lot of travel, it broke. I had to think for years, y'all. But yeah, eventually, time went on, life moved forward, and we had lost touch yet again, because life happens. She has her own family, children, her own life and everything like that. And me, I'm young in the world. I'm trying to figure my stuff out, And so I remember fast forwarding to 2018, and I was out with a friend of mine, and we were at my favorite Chinese restaurant, and I was crocheting. And so the guy comes up to me and he's like, you're Dante from Instagram. And I'm just like, yeah, most definitely, yeah, Crafty Dante. He was like, oh my God, I have been trying to get in touch with you. And I was just like, because I was in line waiting or whatnot. I think, yeah, that's what I did. I was going to get something else, and I put my stuff down, and he talked to me, and he's just like, I've been trying to get in touch with you because next month in June I'm coming out with a male issue of Chatter magazine, where it's going to be cover things that men usually don't do, which I get where he's coming from, but I was just like, if he just knew the history, okay, which I brought up in the interview. And so I remember him giving me his card, and he's like, let's talk, let's schedule it, because I wanted to, get some photos of you, do a photo shoot, and, and get your story. It's just like, okay, yes, sir. Now, mind you, as time went on, I felt something in me said, I can't just do this without Melanie, because I want to pay homage to her, because if there was no Melanie Dobbs Gibbs, there would be no Crafty Dante. I would not have grown to be the man that I am today. A man who loves to craft, a man who loves to design, a man who, against all odds, against all the harassment and other things I faced while, because of my crafting, she made me a better man. She made me a stronger person. And by me being confident in my craft, it made me more confident in who I am as a person. And I didn't care what people thought, because I'm just like, just because they have an issue doesn't mean that's my problem. And so I told him, I was just like, if she can, I know it's an all male issue, but if she can't be in this magazine with me, I don't want to do it. And he was just like, all right, let me reach out to her. And so he reached out, got her take on it and everything like that. Oh my God. And it was just so beautiful. And let me tell you how awesome this guy is. He ended up renting out the Waffle House that we first met at. We sat at the same table and everything. And it felt just like that, and this was in June 2018 when we did that. I mean, this is in May because the issue came out in June. And so it felt nostalgic. It was just like me being that 17-year-old kid all over again with her, with me. And I'll make sure I include like an overlay of that moment with her. But yeah, y'all, it just was my way of paying homage to her, because she changed my life forever. You know what I mean? And I'm just so thankful for that everything lined up the way it did. You know what I mean? Because had I not been in the predicament that I was, I would never have met her, and I wouldn't be here now. And I'm just so thankful for everything. That's why I say in life, it's best to just take the bad with the good, but don't be stuck, reminiscing about the bad when there's so much good in this world. And also too, it brings me to my next point. The reason I'm here is because one thing that I realized is during my time of like crocheting and everything like that, I, spent the majority of my time listening to vlogs and everything like that. Before they called it podcasts, honey, y'all were calling it vlogs, baby. We're going to say what it is, you know what I'm saying? And so I just remember all those times just listening to vlogs, and just hold on, let me take that back. Before I started doing all of that, when vlogs became a thing, that's where I was here listening to vlogs while I was crafting, and it definitely made the time pass by. And also too, I was just so happy to see other people, like male crafters in the game, here talking and just enjoying the crafting experience. And so I always wanted to do something similar to this, but I was just like, I was so insecure, y'all. It took me a really long time. I would say it's within the recent years where I kind of had to develop a I don't give a F mentality, so that I could work up the courage to be here. But it took me, my courage came from doing things like TikTok and going live and interacting with people and just getting over myself and realizing that there's nothing wrong with me. No one is better than me. We're all just people at the end of the day. And plus also too, I had a couple of people tell me, especially my cousin Rosalind, tell me I talk too much. So when I'm trying to do the short format content, a lot of people don't like it when your video goes over 30 seconds to a minute. So I was just like, let me just come on YouTube, because YouTube, I love hearing people talk. I love hearing people's mindset. And I hate when I make a video and I have to strip it back and I'm making all these cuts and takes, or having to re-record the video 1,000 times. That crap just frustrates me so much, because I don't want to sit here always having to either trim it down or rush a video, because I feel like you can't really get to know a person in a 30 seconds to a minute. I feel like if people are really wanting to get to know a person, I feel like they really should take the time to listen to them and not feel this need to rush them, And no, so yeah, this is my introduction. Like, I want to be here because I talk too much, okay? And I want to be here too because in the world where everything keeps being rushed and everybody wants to shorten speech and speed up everything, it feels nice to know that, a platform like YouTube still exists, and and lovers of long form content still exists, because that's something really special, you know what I mean, that I don't ever want to go away. And I'm glad that people, there still exists people with long attention spans that can sit there and listen to me ramble for over 20 minutes without getting frustrated with me or be like, get to the point. I'm just like, sometimes I just need to vent a little bit or ramble a little bit before I can get to the point, you know, because every detour leads to a path eventually. Okay. But with that being said, that's me. Well, let me give you a little bit more about me, then I'll let you go. So, I am a crocheter. I am a knitter. I'm working on getting into sewing. It doesn't scare me as much, but in the beginning, I used to panic about it. What else? I love to design. Just like now, I'm designing. Um, this is gonna be my a cardigan. You know, using this stitch pattern that I came up with when I was designing my Mother Earth skirt top set, which I'll include a picture here. And it was a recent reel that I uploaded. What else? And my goal for myself and for the future is to get better at designing so that I can make couture, you know, in custom pieces, one of a kind pieces for other people as far as garments go. And this Friday, I'm going to Image, to this place called Fitted Stitches on Image Street here in Cleveland, Tennessee, where I reside. And I'm going to get my measurements professionally taken, which I'm so excited about. Now, I'm taking my own measurements, but it hasn't been the most best measurements there is. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting my measurements taken and, you know, being able to add that to my notebook or whatever, my crafting notebook or my crafting folder. It's something, y'all. I'm trying to crochet and talk at the same time, which I do not do well at times, but I'm glad I kind of made it through this. But yeah, with that being said, I'm looking forward to making more videos. I'm looking forward to being here on YouTube. I never thought I would see myself here, you know what I mean? Because like I said before, I was always insecure. And I'm trying to get over myself. And I'm realizing that I've missed out on a lot of great opportunities in my life because I overthought it and had this thing called analysis paralysis. So by me doing my YouTube videos, it's going to help me get out of my own way. And I don't know if I said it, but I'm going to make sure when I talk about Mother Earth, I'm going to include a picture of it too so y'all can see my recent project or whatever that I just finished designing. But with that being said, you all have a blessed day. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. And again, this is Crafty Dante. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment and show your boy some love. All right. Peace.